Mike's Daily Podcast.
Hi, it's Mike. It's early. It's 5:39 in the morning on a Friday. At least it's Friday. And the show is entitled
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And it's episode 2087. It's Mike 86, rather. 2086. I had the wrong name, but then I did fix the right number. Hi. How are we doing today? I could use a sound effect right now, if that's okay.
Really?
Yes. I could use something like this one.
I don't like where this is going.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I don't like where this is going, my friend. Today, I don't like the way the day is going so far, so
Mike's
I can't go
Daily
too far into it
Podcast
right now, but
yeah,
I will get more into it at some point down the road, but I just can't right now. Hey, today's video clip, which you can see at MikesDailyPodcast.com or at YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/MikesDailyPodcast, you will see Mike Matthews inundated by the light of a UFO, an UFO, if you will. And back, I had no idea, in the early 60s, a couple of years before yours truly was born, you can tell because of these crow's feet and these jowls starting to form, starting to look like Basil, who's going to bark for you in a moment. But yes, back in the day, there was a place called Freedom Land. Lick your lips when you say Freedom Land. Freedom Land, USA, was a direct competition to Disneyland, and it was created by people who had worked on Disneyland. And so they had made Disneyland in 55, and then around 5 years later, they create this place called Freedom Land, and it was in the Bronx. And my lovely lady friend grew up in the Bronx, and now it's called Co-op City, I think. It only lasted 5 years, the amusement park, and then they tore it out and put this city in. So,
here's today's podcast picture.
What's fascinating is they used to have a UFO there. It was called, I think, Satellite City inside of Freedom USA. It was like a future world, a Tomorrowland, like Disneyland and Disney World have. So, yes, UFO coming down. What? Yes, I will go with you. That sounds like fun. Let's go. So I will post that to MikesDailyPodcast.com and YouTube.com/MikesDailyPodcast. The podcast picture today, I don't know, but I will pick something for you. Oh, Basil. Basil's having a hard day today, so I'm not having the best day because of that. And, today we'll see how it goes for Basil, is basically how it goes. And then other things, my car isn't doing too good. It all happens at once. The great band The Police, which lasted, people forget, it did not last very long, The Police. It started in the late 70s, was done by the late 80s. By the mid 80s, really. They had a song called "When the World is Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around." Some days, you've got a lot of money in your pocket, and you spend it all on new stuff, and the new stuff lasts for a while, and after a while, it goes away, and then you maybe don't have the money to replace that stuff, and and then you're just dealing with stuff that's slowly grinding to a halt. And then you make the best of what's still around. I always find fascinating the Sanford and Sons, the folks that lived in other people's trash, because they somehow took stuff that everybody had discarded and made better things out of it, or tried to anyway, or thought they could. But I'm getting people want to be my friend on Fitbit, which is funny because my Fitbit died a couple years ago. Speaking of things that expired and ran down and no longer work, and I do not want to be friends with anybody on Fitbit because I don't use it. I use Google Fit. It's free. It just uses what you already have, your phone, A little plug for Google, now a slug for Google. Stop stealing all my information! For cry and loud. Last podcast, I was discussing, a little bit more about Freedom Land. On this podcast, we were discussing that, Freedom Land USA. It is amazing to me, amusement parks that existed that were huge, especially in the 60s, probably because I was born in the late 60s. But I find it fascinating, those places, because they're gone. A lot of them were torn out. Some places still exist. Disneyland's been around since the 50s. Knott's Berry Farm, as far as I know. Other places disappeared, like there was a place across the bay here, I think it was called Marineland. It ended up moving to Vallejo and turned into, eventually, what it is now, Discovery Kingdom? Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, I think. But, yeah, there was a Marineland over there. That's gone now. You still see the exit for Marineland off the freeway. And I say off the freeway because I'm from Southern California originally. And some people don't say the. When anything has to do with the freeway, they just say freeway. And they say they don't say 101. I say the 101, they say 101. It's weird. I'll never get used to that. Which makes it problematic if I'm going to be doing the traffic on the radio in the Bay Area. Anywho, these places don't exist anymore, though. There's Marineland, the sign you see there off the freeway, and it's not there. In Thousand Oaks, when I was first starting out in radio, my first full-time job in radio, I got started in 86. The first full-time job that I had was in 91 in radio. It took a while because I was finishing up college. And there was a place in Thousand Oaks I worked at called KNJO. It was supposed to stand for Conejo because the Thousand Oaks, Newberry Park area, it's called the Conejo Valley, goes through to Westlake Village, kind of Agoura Hills, that area as we go outside a cafe anyway. We're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley, Mont today. And in this little area that I worked, where the radio station was, I would work there from 6 to midnight, and since it was my first job, I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm sleeping all day. I used to wake up right before having to go there to Thousand Oaks, and it was like an hour drive for me, because I lived in Oxnard, and to get to Oxnard to Thousand Oaks on a weekday afternoon, I was hitting drive time traffic. I got there, so I remember my boss used to get so mad at me. I was late all the time. And then what happened was I'd be working till midnight, and at midnight I was like, oh gosh, I need to exercise. I'm getting fat. In my early 20s, I'm getting fat back then, which now I'm like, haha, you were still thin, you idiot. But I would go for a walk at midnight, and I'd walk all the way down from where the station was on Thousand Oaks Boulevard and walk down, and little did I realize I was walking past Jungleland, the old Jungleland area, which that ended way before I was born, or shortly before I was born. And Jungleland featured the MGM lion, Leo the Lion. The roar that you hear at the beginning of those MGM movies, that's Leo the Lion. Or some of the movies back in that day, that lion was living at Jungleland. Well, I don't know if it was that lion. I think it was a lion called Sam the Lion. Actually grabbed the neck of Jane Mansfield's son and almost killed him. He had a tremendous amount of injuries, as you could imagine. Several surgeries that were done at the Community Memorial Hospital in Ventura. And he somehow survived, but Jane Mansfield sued Jungleland, and Jungleland basically, some say Jungleland closed because of that, the amount of money they had to pay, the negative publicity that was attached to it. Others say Jungleland closed because, which it was called that because of all the animals. It was like basically a big zoo. All these animal trainers that worked for Hollywood, or a couple of the animals anyway, that were in famous movies, were living there at Jungleland. People would stop by and see them. Other people blame the fact that the Ventura Freeway there, yes, the freeway, was now going... It was apparently not as accessible as it used to be, Jungle Land, which I don't know about that. Now it's the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza. So while I was walking up and down Thousand Oaks Boulevard, they were building the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza, which is still there to this day, and they built it on the site of what used to be Jungle Land. Anyway, I found that fascinating because that's an old amusement park that was turned into something else. That I've seen many concerts at Thousand Oaks Civic. I saw Cats at the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza. That was wow. Yes, you might like that musical. To me, it's weird and it's so strange to see that thing with the cats and the people. Now Taylor Swift's in it too. And they're singing.
Oh well. La-di-da,
la-di-da, la-di-da. That's Cats. And that's the end of my song. So I could go on and on about the amusement parks, Gato, that are no longer with us. But they live on in our memories. We get it, Mike. You love defunct land. Anywho, that's today's show. Hey, we're outside a cafe anyway. We're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Vermont, the last place on earth. Look who's here. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How you doing? I brought my horse dinner. Hi, Nelly. Good horse. Oh, such a nice horse. I don't think I could ever own a horse. A lot of work. Beautiful animals. So look who else is here. It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player, tell you what. What? I love old amusement parks that aren't around anymore and that are living on in our memories. Right, look who else is here. Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer handsome right now. Oh, boy. Wow, that's Hawaiian root beer, huh? Yeah, it's delicious handsome. Okay. Hey, I saw my neighbor Jing Jing and her new son, Jason. Jason, named because Jason stands for, it translates into to heal. And so I'm hoping for you that you have some healing today in this crazy world that's gone upside down. That you have some healing energy behind you. Because crazy things are always happening, and we just have to adapt. Some days are better than others. We have to go through the bad to appreciate the good. And I think today I'll do a nice podcast picture of this coal tree in Podcastro Valley. You can see that at MikesDailyPodcast.com. I took that a couple days ago. And let's see. Oh, one last thing. Let's see here. It's just the story of Jane Mansfield, that she met an untimely demise where she was apparently riding with two other people in a car, and her kids were in the back, including Mariska Hargitay, her daughter. She apparently, the car she was in hit a truck, and they were killed on impact. The grown-ups in the front seat. The kids, from what I heard, I haven't read the whole thing. I'm reading it now on Wikipedia, but I haven't finished it. But I know, obviously, Mariska Hargitay survived. They were in the back seat. The kids were in the back seat. I think they all survived, but just that led to a law. So Jane Mansfield, responsible in part for the closing of Jungle Land, and responsible for a special law that made sure that trucks did not have I think there was something that trucks used to have, like on the back of them, that could make them very dangerous. That could hit. Basically, that's what ended up killing Jane Mansfield. So it had something to do with a truck law, and that led to the Mansfield law. I found this out recently. So something horrible, and then something that good came from it to help us all out in the future. Maybe we have all and somehow survived because of this law that was passed that Jane Mansfield had a hand in. She was a famous actress, like the working man's Marilyn Monroe is what they used to call her. And a blonde bombshell back when that was a brand new thing in the Hollywood world. And that's pretty much the end of the show. I didn't want to end on a low note, but that's an informative note anyway. And I will try to bring you another podcast tomorrow. Tomorrow will be another day. And all the best to you. If you have any opinions and you'd like to share them with me, you can call me at 336-MM Daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews. Daily isn't what this podcast has been for quite a while. I look forward to speaking to you again at some point. And tell all your friends. And don't forget, next show it's going to be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Have a good weekend.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!